Hey guys, kembali lagi di podcast Dejet, podcastnya orang-orang Dota di Indonesia. Game yang kata komunitas pesimis di Indonesia udah mati, tapi padahal masih rame-rame aja sih sebenarnya. Dan bahkan Indonesia sendiri udah punya wakilnya di dunia internasional di 2 tahun terakhir, baik tim maupun organisasi. Daripada lama-lama dengerin intro, mendingan kita langsung ketemu aja sama bintang tamu kita di episode kali ini.
Yep, sorry for the break. So we can continue with the game 2 detail that you want to talk about that
Sure.
I stopped there because of the time limitation. So let's continue.
Yeah, game 2 is honestly, that game was my mistake. During the draft, in this position, AG has been known to play Templar Assassin quite a lot in this season.
Exactly.
I have very strong faith. I won't go into detail about it, but I have very strong faith and vision in why this hero is very strong, and why it's very good for us as a team. But we ended up not picking it. Once Execration's draft that game, if I recall, it was Visage Tiny, which was one of their expected openings. We were prepared for it. Not prepared enough, but they went to Luna. I did not expect the Luna pick, but once the Luna came out, in my mind, I'm thinking they just want to run the auras for the Visage Birds because it's flat damage bonus for the Visage Birds, which is
Right.
actually a very nice synergy, right? Visage Luna is actually a very strong combo.
Yes.
But it also, the reason why Luna support is not popular is because it kind of cripples your lane. She's like a 300 range attack hero. She has one nuke with a stun, which is honestly quite a good nuke, but for example, like the Moonglaves doesn't really scale for you much as a support.
Yes.
So you're looking at a hero with 2 spells as a support. Kind of melee, not like kind of pseudo melee, right? Like her range is not that big. So I expect her to kind of get out-traded by heroes like Rubik, which we had.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the way that game played out, it did not happen. We also did not grab the Templar Assassin where we should have. We actually sniped Mars pick based on one of my player suggestions that Mars can be really good for us in team fight. But the critical mistake of that draft is that we already have Night Stalker. So Mars and Night Stalker are kind of similar in identity as heroes, right? They offer team fight with their ultimates. They're strength melee heroes.
Yes.
They have, I don't want to necessarily say they have damage issues because NS carry is very scary right now, and I think game 1 kind of proved that. But we weren't able to prove it in game 2. They picked this Kunkka on us, which honestly could have been something that we picked as well. It's good against the Visage also. And I think that my mistake was just drafting the Mars there. The game did not go well at all because Yoei hasn't played Mars in a very long time. And we kind of scrambled. We picked this Timbersaw last pick to counter the Kunkka, and we said if they dodge the matchup, we'll just follow and we'll flex the Mars, thinking that the Mars can draw against anything, kind of like how SMG drew the Mars against the Tinker against us,
Exactly.
right? But yeah, this was a poor reaction to a loss that maybe we shouldn't have looked too deep into. I personally don't like this Mars hero that much. And I think me taking that suggestion was a very foolish choice on my own.
Okay.
It should have been Templar. Yeah, I have many regrets about that. I just know that we did not play our best game. We got some solo kill happening at mid. Our side lane rotations that game looked very, very forced. I'm not sure if you watched the game, but there's a time where we go into the tier 1 at top, we miss every spell and we just keep diving and they just chain 4 DPs and just kill 4 of us. Stuff like this is like kind of like it's a sign of pressure getting to you, and you're kind of just YOLOing it because you're afraid of what would happen if you don't do anything, right? But yeah, I think even the execution is poor. I think that in terms of strategy, I made a poor mistake drafting the Mars there. It was a very, very bad decision. I know some people are going to look at the Night Stalker and be like, Night Stalker carry lol W. I saw that in my personal feed as well. But the truth is, again, the viewers, the spectators, even the commentators and analysts, they usually don't know what happens in these practice games. And you just have to believe us because we're not going to tell you everything. You just have to believe us that we have practiced these things and we understand what's going on, which is why in game 1 it could look so good, but somehow in game 2 it could look so poorly, right?
Okay.
In the end, we abandoned that strategy for game 3. We went with second pick. We gave them the Visage again. And I think a lot of people gave me this comment about respect ban. Now, I need people to understand that there are not an infinite number of bans in Dota 2. In the first phase, especially.
Exactly.
We have a history of losing against Broodmother every single game. If you look at our Division 2 DPC, we lost every game with Broodmother. And recently, with the SMG loss, we actually lost most games against Broodmother as well. Execration is a known first pick Broodmother team. We have to have a team conversation. We decided that we're going to ban this Broodmother.
Yes.
Then the next question is Coddle. Execution also have a very high win rate with Caudle. And if you look at DPC itself, actually Caudle has like a 90% win rate in Division 1 in C. Now, I'm not saying just for the matches, I'm saying for the scrims as well and in practice, because again, we are 7-0 with Caudle in practice. And we, at least I, just feel how broken this hero can be, you know? So we have to have that conversation. Execution at this point is either going to get Beastmaster, which is one of their comfort picks. We beat the Beast. We're not worried about the Beast. They're going to get Caudle or they're going to get Visage. I made the decision that I think giving them Visage gives us the most likely chance to win because Visage, for example, is a hero that they lost. They won a lot of games, but they also lost some games at the Lima Major with this hero, you know?
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, and it is true that like if you watch the Lima Major, they had this Visage Dawnbreaker lineup a few times where they did win a few games as well. But in theory, if you're not gonna have a very tanky, like unkillable core against this, because Dawnbreaker can kind of fall off in damage, you know, he's not really like the hardest scaling carry, which is why even though Nature's Prophet is one of the most popular picks right now in competitive Dota, you don't see very many Dawnbreaker carries, right? That phase has already passed because people have realized that this is not it's not the best thing.
Okay.
But Execration did it against us, and I think that in my mind, Lifestealer last pick there is pretty unbreakable. At least that's what I thought. It was broken, partly due to our mistakes. If you want to go into details like that game, we have a pretty decent lead going into 10 minutes. We're winning every lane basically. The Furions Network is ahead of the Dawn. Yeah, we're beating the Visage pretty hard. And then there's a point where we discover a stack in their jungle, and my Ember Spirit has no points in shield, so we don't really have AoE wave clear damage, right? And we're just sitting here and sleight of fisting this 3-stack that they have in the jungle in front of the Carlo Luna. We're just watching each other with Tiny, Mirana, and Ember versus the Luna, and we're just sleight of fisting this 3-stack 5 times. That's 30 seconds of time, you know, showing 3 heroes in 30 seconds of time to get what is probably like 1.6 or 1.7 creep waves worth. So it's actually a massive economic damage to ourselves. And then during that time, what happens is Execration actually rotate their Batrider bottom to this Lifestealer, who can basically never die to this Marcy Visage, but ends up dying because there's a Batrider lasso there. And then suddenly they take the tower, they take over our jungle, and then Visage has this item timing that they go mid. When they went mid, I was told after the game that there was a massive miscommunication. I don't know. Do you remember that sequence at all? Did you watch the game?
Yes, I watched the game because there's some fight that happens in the mid lane on the Roshan pit and stuff, and then you guys kind of force it, and then with the smoke or something, and then you guys lost it on that fight.
Yeah, I believe this was like the second night tide timing, but basically they rotated their Visage to mid with the timing of one of their first aura items. And they showed every hero on the low ground. When you're stuck in the river in the mid lane, it's usually a very, very dangerous position because if you don't have blings, you can't get out. And even if you can get out, usually you get jumped in that position because it's the low ground, right?
Exactly.
In that situation, what happened was we had a Tiny go in, he blink and he Avatos comboed the Batrider because he's the only lockdown for a Lifestealer. If we kill the Batrider to start the fights, even with their Visage auras, they shouldn't be able to break the Lifestealer, which means the Lifestealer should naturally outscale the fight.
Yes.
I was told after that was a miscommunication. What Kiki in your dream wanted to do was he wanted to invest the Tiny so we can go for this blow up combo. What other players expected Jocam to do was to toss back the Batrider into the high ground where he's alone, and that's when Dawnbreaker ulti is useless, right? Because the Dawnbreaker will probably click his ulti right after the Avalanche, or even if he comes to the Batrider on top, the Marcy and the Visage are still on the low ground and they're out of position, right? It would take them 3 seconds to get up on the high ground where all of AG's heroes are, and they would have probably gotten the Batrider bursted at least for sure. Dawnbreaker didn't have a BKB at that time either, right? So who knows how these things could have gone, but once again, this is DPC. This is a lot of pressure for the players. It was an instantaneous, momentous decision. And Jocam decided to blink in combo. We tried to follow up with the arrow. Anyone who remembers that fight knows that instead of them being forced to come up to the high ground with our Tiny disposition, our Lifestealer had to rage to get the extra movement speed just to reach the Batrider that was getting gone on. And then immediately he got lassoed because the Batrider didn't die in time. So we got triple killed there. They took the tower. They hold map control, right? And then after that, I think we actually smoked right away, came back, got 2 kills right next to their tier 2 because they weren't ready. And then we got Roshan. And so the game is still even again. You know, the game is still favorable for us. Yeah. But with this Aegis, I think we accomplished basically nothing because once again, I feel like we're playing with the mindset of pressure. We're scared that we're going to make mistakes. Their ball is strong with the Visage. But if you have, the thing is, this Visage hero is very stagnant, right? He's like an OD. He's like a statue. if you choose a fight somewhere away from the Visage, he basically can't get there in time, right? Because he has to go with his birds
Exactly.
as well. It's not a
Mhm.
Lycan. You know, the weakness of a lot of these animal heroes is that they can be kited, they can be outmaneuvered by mobility.
Correct.
Um, Nature's Prophet and Ember Spirit are some of the best cores in the game against this in terms of mobility. They
Mhm.
can split push relentlessly, and if you look at Execution's draft this game, the only 1200 range or fog catch, I like to call it, heroes that can jump from fog and stun you. The only
Mhm.
fog catch they have this game is a Bat Rider who had to play against an Ember Mirana. This is probably, in theory, in my mind, Ember Mirana is probably the hardest counter to Bat Rider because this Bat Rider usually loses the lane to Ember Spirit with the chain build.
Ah.
Um, because Bat Rider doesn't have sustain to fight the Ember Spirit Sleight of Fist spam, which is why Ember Spirit's one of the hardest counters to Bat Rider right now. Um, but again, it's game three, and Bob is an incredible Bat Rider player. We are also a Bat Rider team ourselves, so we know that like a fantastic Bat Rider can just come out of this lane alive and still have a game to play because you rush BKB first item, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I think we weren't able to utilize the combo nearly as much. Like for example, at the 6 minute rune, Shanks was already there to block the arrow in front of the Mirana, so the Bat Rider survived. And yeah, they had this execution down pat. They were ready for some of the things that we were going to do. But I still, in my mind, I feel like they kind of have to ball up this game. Um, and Dawnbreaker is kind of a liability for them because he's always going to play alone. He's never going to be in the lane with Visage because he doesn't want to share farm with the Visage. So he's always going to be alone in like top lane when Visage is playing bottom lane, right? Which should technically, or in theory, give us the opening to run into the Dawnbreaker.
Mhm.
Because he really wants to ult into the fight like a Spectre, right? He's going to be alone basically the entire game. And we have two extremely mobile global cores like Ember Spirit and Nature's Prophet to accomplish this. Once again, we did kill the Dawnbreaker a few times this game. But in the end, like even with the Roshan and all these things, the team fights kind of just kept going very poorly for us.
Yes.
And at one point, I think with some of the extra fights that we given them at the mid lane tower, the death at bottom, which the unbreakable Nyx kind of got broken. Um, all these things combined eventually led to Palos on the Dawnbreaker having a 5k gold net worth advantage on the Lifestealer. Um, any carry player who has played this matchup should be able to tell you this is a very Lifestealer favorite matchup. When Nyx rages and uses his double passives against the Dawnbreaker usually cannot man fight this. It's kind of impossible.
Yes. Exactly.
But that game it was possible due to the net worth disadvantage as well as the fact that they had all these aura items on the Visage. This
Oh.
Visage is supposed to be very poor this game.
Mhm.
Because he's playing Lifestealer Mirana. This is a very strong lane against Visage. You might have actually seen that the Visage got solo killed at level 5 by the
Yes.
Lifestealer. This matchup, anyone who plays this matchup probably knows. This Nyx, like Visage is very weak against things that can touch him, and he
Mhm.
can't respond. Because the way Visage wins these lanes is he has to be able to soul assumption to return the kill, right? Like you're
Mm.
scared of just getting hit by this Dagon ability that he has, and that's why you don't want to harass him. But if you can ignore this soul assumption and the Grave Chill especially, which is the slow, this hero doesn't really offer that much in the lane. Um, and Lifestealer is that because he has magic immunity, he has self-sustain, he hits harder, he has a very high base attack speed, right?
Yep.
So you can kind of ignore the Grave Chill as well. So yeah, the solo kill happens, and once again after that, we just applied little pressure on this Visage, even though we could. And as a result, the Visage ends up getting a kill on the Lifestealer with the Bat Rider, takes the tower, and suddenly my last pick counter pick against the Visage and the Dawnbreaker is the exact same net worth as the Visage, and that
Oh.
for me is kind of an execution problem.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, like all of these things coming together, the team fights just didn't go our way. We gave up a lot of extra kills that we shouldn't have. Even though they had like a 9k gold lead sieging our high ground, at one point, they just got hit by this random arrow because we have Mirana Tiny and Tiny just tossed them back, and we just brought back the entire game. Um, but even then, still, I think the Dawnbreaker's net worth was just too high in perspective. He just had an entire free item on top of the life stealer, and
Mhm.
that's how carries scale in the game of Dota 2, You
Yeah.
you win by items. Net worth is, I think Team Tundra really showed it this year with the previous TI, the recent TI, right? Like if you don't have the superior matchup, like you're playing Naga against a Pudge and a Leshrac, right? There's really
Yes.
not much Dota to be played as Naga. But if your team knows what they're doing, if they're building Pipe, Wraith Pact, and a Mage Slayer just so that they can't deal damage to your illusions,
Yep.
I mean that's Dota 2 for you. You get the right items, you make the correct choices, and these decisions are usually what makes the best players win. Um, I was told um, that Southeast Asia has this thing, you guys like watch a lot of videos from each other.
Yep.
I don't know the details, but I understand that on Facebook, Execration made a post or something, that they were very prepared for us and stuff like that. And
Yes. Yes.
I
I
didn't
got that
watch it, but my
video too.
players,
Yeah.
yeah, my players told me, and people told me they were prepared with the Fury, prepared to play against the Fury, in which we only played one game. But it's the winners set the narratives. It's like we won the first game against Knights with Night Stalker carry. It looked like a godly pick.
Yep.
Honestly, second game could have been really good too, I think, if we just executed a little bit better.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to that point, and then so it becomes like Night Stalker is such a bad pick, right? When we lose SMG 2 games in a row and people see Tinker 2 games in a row, they ask themselves,
It looks
why
like a
did you pick
bad
Tinker
pick.
2 games in a row? Yeah, but
Yes.
the truth is, if you understand Dota and if you look at the perspective of what they have versus what we have against them, right? Like against SMG, how can they catch this Tinker? You know what I mean? If Tinker starts getting rolling with a BKB, they have literally 0 damage for him. He will laser the Morphling, and Morphling will not do damage for 4 seconds. And then the team fight's basically over because the Tinker can just 1v5 as long as somebody just stuns for the Tinker. And we have a lot of
Yes.
stuns. We have a
Mm-hmm.
Pudge CM, we have Doombringer, these are stuns. Um, but yeah, we just couldn't get to that point. And if you ask why we couldn't do it, it would be the same thing as asking why LGD couldn't beat Spirit in the game 5, why this team couldn't beat that team, why Talon got top 3 at the major, why Talon were able to win 2 first pick Furion games just now after Execration beat our Furion, even though they were so prepared, right? It's it's never this simple. And the best players always find a way to teach you something new, something that you were not prepared for. Execration was not prepared for us to play the coddle, which is why I think the first game went the way it did. In their mind, anti-mage was a counter, which is why when they had coddle, they always banned anti-mage and faceless void. Um, but they did not understand that, right? And then they
Mm-hmm.
adapted. They switched over to the Visage. I thought I understood the Visage. I thought I understood their strategy, but I did not as well. I was not
Okay.
prepared enough. So then we play a game 3 where I think I'm prepared enough. I think we have a Lifestealer God pick against their 3 cores that don't interact well with it. We have a Nature's Prophet that can play very fast against these heroes that show on the map like Visage. You can just catch the other guys or like stuff like that. But again, it we came short and it didn't happen. If it did happen, I do think we'd be playing a different game, but unfortunately, it didn't.
Okay.
I came to this team. I came to the Southeast Asia region to prove something,
Mm-hmm.
to prove this idea that anyone can do it, that all you need is the right amount of motivation, dedication, and good guidance, good coaching strategy. Um, the formula to success is never easy, and I think a lot of players and a lot of people just view the results and they might make the decision or they might set their narrative like, why would you do this? Why would you do that? You should get fired or you shouldn't be here. But yeah, the road to being great is never easy. I use this Steph Curry example a lot. Do you know Steph Curry?
So, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
NBA
yeah,
players.
yeah. I think everybody knows Steph Curry right now. He's regarded as the greatest shooter,
Mm-hmm.
arguably of all time, but currently in the current generation for sure the greatest shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Changed the game of basketball to have people start playing the long range more, playing from the farther ranges to get these 3-pointers more because they just,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 3 points is better than 2 points, right? Um, what people forget is that Steph Curry has taken more shots than anyone else in the history has, probably multiple players combined. Steph Curry is known to take 1,000 shots every single day, 1,000 shots of basketball every single day. That is a level of practice that most people don't even think about, you know? And just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean you should make the narrative that it doesn't exist, because it does exist. And because it exists is why these teams are able to produce. Um, this execution loss was honestly, it was heartbreaking. Like I said, I'm a champion of failure. I've failed so many times. I've failed to make TIs. I've failed to make majors many times. I've gone top 2 at major. I've gone top 2 in qualifiers and just one game shy many times. Like I said earlier, it never gets easier. But this one was especially heartbreaking because it would have been the first major for all the players on this team. I've been to majors, I've been to TIs. I know that just one good result with this kind of team, the momentum you would get, the hype that you would get, the status that you would establish, and the future that you could carve just by having this major attendance and maybe getting lucky, but practicing really hard to show the world that you have a fighting chance and that you can do it. That's a dream come true for me. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, unfortunately this time we were a little short in realizing this dream. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is what I do. This is what I love. I live for this competition. This is why I wake up every morning. So all I know is that we as a team, we've got more work to do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the only goal I have set for us, is that we're going to take a little break coming up in this upcoming empty space for us where there's going to be the major and the Dream League, right? We don't really have
Yes.
anything to fight for at that point. Obviously, Valve has announced that they have an ambitious patch coming out at the end of April, which I think logically just means between the Dream League and majors. But it would be awkward to release a patch just before the major too, because DPC points are so sensitive.
They always do
Um,
that.
yeah. Yeah, I honestly I don't exactly know how they're gonna deal with this. They've already put it in writing that they're gonna release it by late April, but I
Okay.
just don't see a realistic. I just don't see how it's possible unless they release it like right now, during Division 2, which
Yes.
is also it's like really, So again, I think everybody's very curious to see how Valve will handle this, but in the meantime for us, we should take this time to reset, take a break, see our loved ones, rejuvenate our passion, and then come back fresh for the next season.
Okay. So is this also something that you want to tell to all the audience that Army Genesis only committed for the DPC and also for the TI because there's a gap between the break time right now when
Mhm.
we do this podcast. There's nothing that AG will join the tournament. I mean, like the third tournament party or something.
I would like to join, but there are just no tournaments to join. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, it's Dream League, right? Which
Yeah,
which is
Dream
like
League. It's
basically,
all
yeah,
invited.
yeah, and Dream League is huge, It's a
Yeah.
14-day tournament league. Everybody's flying in. It's $1 million tournament, and most importantly,
Yes.
it gets seeding to Riyadh Masters. I've told the players on this team, if you've never tried before, or even if you tried before, just try this year because Riyadh Masters is basically a second TI. That prize pool being
Huge.
what was announced, yeah, 15 million was
15,
it?
15.
It's yeah.
Collectively from the Dream League 19 until 20 is 17.
Yeah,
17
so
million.
last year, yeah, the TI prize pool for last year was actually like 20 million, right? Around there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was cut in half from the previous reasons because of how Valve wanted to distribute the battle pass. I won't go into details on that.
Mm-hmm.
Valve is Valve. But um yeah, they're basically adding another TI, and who knows what Valve will do for the battle pass this year. I know for a fact that if I'm Valve, I'm not gonna have a prize pool that just matches Riyadh Masters. I want TI to be the biggest thing. So they might go back. They probably won't go back to having such massively inflated $40 million TIs, but I do think it's gonna be higher than last year for sure.
Yep.
And that means there's a lot of money to be made in this year. Um, the money is always a bonus to this competition, but it also is very important for the livelihood of us as humans, right? Living in
Yes.
society.
Mm-hmm.
So I want these players all to be successful. I think more important than Dota is how you want to live your life, to treat others the way you want to be treated. And I love these guys here. I
Okay.
think they're very good people. I'm very happy with this roster, regardless of, the success or failure of it. And
Okay.
yeah, I want my players to be looked after. And I think that if we try really hard this year, they can carve their own path into the future, even without me or even without this team. And I think that's very important to think about is that we're all heading towards a goal. We all have a different purpose. For now, we are together, but we won't always be together, right? And I think it's important to understand that and make the most out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Man. Okay, this is
30
quite a
years old, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
I also 30 years old. I mean, like, but somehow you kind of think one or maybe three, four step ahead as a coach, as a team leader. I do believe, as a team players and everything. As a yeah, you know what I mean. I mean, you kind of more older than your age. I think.
I've had to, yeah, the thing is, when you're a coach, right, it's like kind of like a teaching position, leadership position. So
Correct.
um, sometimes I feel like, even though in my moments of weakness, I have to be strong. You know what I mean? I come from a family background that I think is very different from most people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I won't go into details on that, but basically there was a lot of hardships in my life, earlier stages. I had to work night shifts, graveyard
Mm-hmm.
shifts, which means like from midnight to 8 a.m. in the morning just to make ends meet for my family, pay the rent. And the most important lesson from all these things and my religious years and all that is I just want to make sure that people who have the opportunity to reach this success don't let it go, because otherwise you'll end up having a fate like me. It's a world that we live in. We just passed the 8 billion mark in terms of human beings a few months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, no matter what religion you are, whether you're a Muslim, devoted to the Islamic faith, or a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
like my former self, or a Hindu, Buddhist, whatever it is, as long as you treat others the way you want to be treated, and um, you prioritize not just the momentous gratification, but the future, setting yourself up for success. I think I think it's important that, every one of us is competing out there, you know what I mean, for the jobs, for the work, for the girl that you like, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's not easy, 8 billion people out there, not every one of us is valued the same. It's not easy. So at least for me, for the people that I do work with, um, I want to make sure that they can be set the best that they can really be. And I think
Okay.
that's a beautiful thing.
Yep. That's perfect. That's perfect, coach.
Yeah.
Okay. So one last silly question, maybe. The team is gonna be stick together until TI, right?
I never give guarantees on roster changes. Um,
Okay.
I I this is a cold business, I have
I
literally
okay.
won minors and had to leave the team because there was like a conflict that I just, I couldn't accept, right? It's a matter of pride and other things for people like me, but it's also again, the business is very cutthroat.
Okay.
My intention, and I actually have shared with the players on this team that the moment the season was over, we had our, closing DPC talk, right? And I told them my full intention is to keep you guys together. I'm not looking for these like RTC said this to me after TI. We were, he was just on a smoke break. We were chilling and he was talking, and I was like, so, you know, these EG has not had the best performances in terms of par to expectations, right? Or Shopify
Yes.
Rebellion now. And then he actually told me, yeah, but it's like, these are my guys, and it's like, what am I gonna do? Like, one of my players choked or didn't play well, and then am I just gonna switch this X guy to a Y guy for a 5% upgrade and another chance that it might not work again because of like lack of fit or whatever? And he's like, no, he's like, I
Ah.
love these guys. I'm not gonna leave these guys. These are my people. And that's I respect that. You know what I mean? There are things that are more important than winning, and it's looking after your people. And I think that winning is a medium, it's a gateway to looking after your people. So if you can
Exactly.
already be looking out for your people, and you can win on top of that, that's great. But like, if you're not winning absolutely everything, but you're still able to provide for the people you love,
Okay.
it is what it is. So
Wow.
yeah, for me, it's the same. Like like sure, like I mean, just throw a random name out there. I'll never replace DB, but let's just say like, oh, somebody else becomes available, higher rank, superstar, whatever. Why would I do that? I love this
Okay.
guy. He knows me. I know him, and I know how much better he can be with me.
Okay.
There's this Division One has 8 different sets of players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jackie is rank one, 23 Savage is he was formerly rank one, right? I see them play pubs against each other all the time. Some games
Yep.
are 15-minute stomp. Does that mean 23 is so much better than Jackie? I don't think it's that simple. I think I've worked with
Yes.
both
Not that
players on
simple.
Boom actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I work with both of them, coaching them. They both offer very aggressive yet different ideas to the table. And I know that these guys can all be a different beast and a special beast as long as they have somebody else behind them to support them in the form of a coach or their teammates. It's all about fit. And I think this AG roster has a very good fit right now.
Yep, that's what all the audience and also maybe the management look at right now. You guys have all the materials to go for the TI for the major, but yeah, again, same as
One
last
game
year,
shy.
one win, one game shy. But I do
Yeah.
believe next major, at least you guys will be going into the major. I think that's the shortest path that you want to take to go to the major, and then let's see what we can do on the TIs, right?
Yeah. I mean, Dejet, it's a Bali major. This is hometown for
The
these guys.
hometown,
That
yes.
yeah, that's the make or break. And the one guarantee I can give to you viewers and listeners and those of you who care is that if I am still with this organization then, which I intend to be right now, I will give an effort that I've never given before. A lot of people say they try their best, but the best is a very hard thing to do. I very rarely like to say that I try my best. It's hard. The one thing I can guarantee though is that I will try harder than I've ever tried, to prepare us for the absolute most unexpected circumstances, and then we just pray to see what happens.
Okay. All right then. Everything's have been there. Already asked all the question. You already share all the stories, the breakdown, what is happening between all the games that we try to look at, the losing
Mm.
games, and you give us the perspective of yours and also all the teams and what we cannot see as a viewers, especially as the online viewers. It's different if we look at the match inside the gaming house. It's kind of different again, of course. So yeah, thank you so much, CV, for the times. I wish you nothing but good luck on the summer tour, and
Hmm.
hopefully And this is what we want to see is AG playing on the major on the homeland in Bali. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
My wishes are
So
the same.
Mhm.
Yeah. I hope to take this team to TI.
Amen. Because that's banner, it's matter, right? Behind you.
Yeah.
That
That's
banner is
right.
matter. Thank you so much, CV. See you again. Maybe we can do some kind of recap after the summer season. So
Yeah,
bye
sure
bye for
thing.
now. Bye bye.
Thank you. My pleasure. Take care.
Okay.